Hello everyone. So we will further continue today evidences for organic evolution. So in this, the next title is physiological or biochemical evidences. That means by studying physiology or biochemistry of any organism, if that is linked with any other organism of distant relationship or of close relationship, we can prove that organic evolution has taken place. So we can study metabolic processes in different organisms, which include like digestion, respiration, and biosynthesis and muscle contraction, and all these processes, these are similar, they occur almost in a similar manner in all the organisms, in all the animals. So these kind of chemical reactions and substances which are involved in which are similar in majority of the organism, this clearly concludes that they must have some common ancestor. Also, energy which is released by biological oxidation, it is stored as ATP, adenosine triphosphate, in approximately every organism. So these are some of the similarities which connect every organism to a common ancestor. That means they have common origin. The next is enzymes. Enzymes are essentially alike in their nature and action in majority of the organisms. Like if you talk about trypsin, it digests protein in every organism, whether that are sponges, whether that are coelentrates or platyhelminths or man, or you can say any vertebrate. Okay, so starting from sponges to man, trypsin always does the same function of digesting the proteins. So this again confirms the relationship of all the organisms, that they must have some common ancestry. Then next is hormones. Hormones, they resemble in their chemical nature and function in all mammals. And this similarity is so close that deficiency of insulin, in case of human, it can be made up by giving pancreas of other organisms. That means insulin of all mammals are is similar. The next is blood and lymph. Blood and lymph are similar in their composition and physiological role in vertebrates, and this indicate relationship among all the vertebrates, that they have some common origin. All vertebrates have hemoglobin in their RBC, and but it is dissolved in but this hemoglobin, that can vary somewhat in its characteristics and properties, but approximately all vertebrates, they possess hemoglobin. Some annelids such as earthworm, they also have hemoglobin, but it is dissolved in plasma and it is different from that of vertebrate hemoglobin. That clearly indicates they have different ancestors. The next are blood proteins. All vertebrates are related, but their relationship is much nearer in mammals, as suggested by the blood proteins. Blood protein also indicate, that means relationship in organism, and specifically here in case of vertebrates. And if you talk about specifically about mammals, then blood proteins of various mammals are so much similar to a great extent, like blood protein test between man and great apes has shown that they are nearest possible relatives. Okay, like gorilla and chimpanzee, these are more near to men in comparison to the old world monkeys and new world monkeys. The next are blood group. So in humans there are four blood groups: A, B, AB, and O. But in apes there are two blood groups, A and B. But these blood groups are not found in monkeys. That means monkeys are distant relatives than apes. Apes and humans are more closely related, as suggested by the blood groups. So they again prove that all three of these have a common ancestor. The next are oxyhemoglobin crystals, as you can also call them hemin crystal. You must have formed these crystals in your physiological experiments in fourth semester. So these oxyhemoglobin crystals, these are species specific. That means every species have a specific shape of these crystals. These crystals of all the mammals are similar, but different from birds and reptiles. That again confirms that all mammals, they have originated from a common ancestor. Then next is urinary waste. Analysis of urinary waste, that means nitrogenous waste, of different vertebrates provides evidence of evolutionary relationship between organisms. Like like the nature of urinary waste excreted, it depends upon the presence or absence of some specific enzymes, and these enzymes are determined by genes, which genes are functional in which line of evolution or which group of organism. So urinary waste in case of birds and reptiles is uric acid, amphibians it is urea, and in most fishes it is ammonia. Ammonia in most invertebrates, and in most fishes it is also urea. This shows that vertebrate evolution, it has involved successive loss of successive loss of enzymes which are needed for stepwise breakdowns of uric acid. Basically, how this reaction goes: uric acid is converted into urea with the help of enzyme uricase, and then urea is converted into ammonia. Okay, so the chick embryo, it excrete ammonia in early stages, and then urea in later stages, and uric acid in final stages. This is because early chick embryo, it has enzyme uricase which catalyzes the first step in the breakdown of uric acid, and later embryo loses this enzyme. So chick embryo then repeats the evolution of excretion starting from fishes and to the higher level uric acid. So this is called biochemical recapitulation. Okay, so this is biochemical recapitulation, and this is the important example which is exhibited by frog as well. As frog exhibit ammonia in larval stage and urea in adult stage, because it will lose the enzyme which will convert urea to ammonia, and that's why in adult stage it will excrete urea. So that is again a very good example which shows that there is physiological or biochemical processes which are acting as an evidence for the organic evolution. The next are cytological evidences. Everybody knows that cell is the basic unit of structure and function in all organisms, and this reflects again a basic relationship between all living organisms, that they must have evolved from a common source. So all the cells, they have membranes, they have Golgi apparatus, they have ribosomes, they have nucleus, they have mitochondria, all eukaryotic cells. So this again proves that they must have evolved from a common ancestor or the evolutionary line that has been phyletic. All the cells have protoplasm, which is similar in physical and chemical properties. All the cells, they have cilia and flagella, and which are similar in structure and function, especially in case of eukaryotes. And cell carry out all the basic life function in similar manner. Whatever the cell is, wherever the cell is, in whatever organism it is present, it will carry out all life basic functions in a similar manner. So these all facts, they put an emphasis on the concept of unity of life. The next are molecular evidences. Now, molecules of life, these are present in every cell, and which also provide evidence in favor of organic evolution. Like, what are molecules of life? These are genes and proteins. So all genes and proteins, they contain specific biological information. So it is unlikely that two unrelated species would evolve exactly same sequence of chromosome bands, nucleotides, or amino acid by chance. It cannot occur by chance if two or more species, they have similar kind of bending pattern or similar sequences of amino acid in their proteins, or they have similarly placed nucleotides on their DNA or RNA. So it cannot occur by chance. They must have been linked through a common ancestor. So that is molecular evidence. So greater the molecular similarity, closer will be the evolutionary relationship. Okay, more the molecular similarity, closer will be evolutionary relationship. That means more closely related the species would be. Okay, so next we'll discuss about the various uh, uh, evidences which will prove that there are molecular evidences. So under this heading, molecular evidences, the first we'll discuss about the comparison of chromosomes. Now, there is a similarity in number, shape, bending pattern, and DNA content of chromosome between great apes and humans. As we know, humans have total of 46 chromosomes, while great apes, orangutan, chimpanzee, and gorilla, they have a total chromosome of 48. Now, the amount of DNA in great apes and humans is exactly similar. Then how come so that these chromosome numbers are different? That means if you will break down the chromosome number 2, which is one of the largest chromosome in case of humans, If you cut down that chromosome 2 into 2 half, the chromosome number in humans will be 48. Okay, so it is supposed that human chromosome 2 is a fusion of chimpanzee's chromosome 2A and 2B with a piece from chromosome 9. So chromosome 2A and 2B of chimpanzees, they must have joined together to form chromosome 2 of human. Here you can see these green chromosomes are of human, and these red chromosomes here are shown from chimpanzee. Okay, so here you can see chromosome number 2, and instead of 2 in chimpanzee there are 2A and 2B. If you will join them, this will be exactly of the same size of that as that of the chromosome number 2 of human. So that is a great evidence that these two are related, as they have approximately same amount of DNA and approximately similar number of chromosomes. If you will join the chromosome number 2A and 2B of orangutan or chimpanzee, here that is shown here, 2A plus 2B plus a small arm of chromosome 9, and it will be equivalent to chromosome number 2 of human in their gene sequences as well as in their DNA content. So total amount of DNA, it is similar in great apes and humans. Also, all mammals, they have identically banded X chromosome. The banding pattern of X chromosome of all mammals is similar, which again proves that they must have originated from a common ancestor. Also, further, bending pattern of chromosome number 3 and 6 of man and chimpanzee. Okay, so this chromosome A, it is representing human chromosome, chromosome number 3, and this is third chromosome of chimpanzee. You can see that the bending pattern is approximately similar with minor differences. Okay, so this again proves that there is a great chromosomal homology between these two organisms, that they must have been evolved from a common ancestor. And here is chromosome number 6 of human and chimpanzee, again having similar kind of bending pattern. Here, the different chromosome of chromosome number 2 of orangutan, gorilla, and chimpanzee has been shown with along with that of human. And these red and blue lines, these are showing the similarity, gene similarity with the human. So this is P arm and this is Q arm, short arm and long arm of gorilla, orangutan, and chimpanzee. And here is the chromosome number 2 of human, the lower picture. So this is again showing chromosomal homology. The next is in molecular evidences. The next is comparison of protein sequences. All organisms, they use same genetic code to synthesize their proteins. Okay, same genetic code, same triplet codon to synthesize their protein. Many species, they use the same protein with minor variations in amino acid sequence. That means majority of the amino acid in a protein will be similar with only a few differences in amino acid here and there. So one such example is protein cytochrome C. 20 out of 104 amino acid, out of 104 amino acids, 20 amino acids have identical position in all eukaryotes, which again suggests that these belong to a common ancestor. So, also it has been proven that cytochrome C of chimpanzee and man are much identical. Here you can see in this graph. Uh, Here you can see the chimpanzee and human. The cytochrome C of chimpanzee and human, that has a common ancestor, so it is originated from the same source. So they have greater homologies. So closer the relationship of two species, more similar will be the sequence of amino acid. Okay, so that's why it is suggested that chimpanzee and man are more closely related than chimpanzee and gorilla, or chimpanzee and orangutan, or chimpanzee or any chimpanzee and any other old world monkey. So, because the cytochrome C sequence of chimpanzee and man are approximately identical, that means these are closely related. The next is comparison of DNA sequences. Similarity in DNA sequences between two species, it is assessed for the entire genome or for a single gene. So this is how we can compare DNA sequence, either for the whole genome or for a single gene. So what is genomic similarity? Genomic similarity, it can be determined on the basis of complementary base pairing. Complementary base pairing is a technique with which first the DNA double helix that will be uncoiled, that will be split and will be mixed together with the single stranded DNA of another species. So, if DNA, the rate at which hybrid DNA double helix will be formed is directly proportional to similarity in their DNA sequences. That means, jitna faster DNA helix banega between two strands of DNA, each belonging to a different species, from species A and from species B. ओके जितनी जल्दी वो रीअनील होंगे, जितना जल्दी वो एक दूसरे के साथ कंबाइन करेंगे और डबल हेलिक्स बनाएंगे, उनके बीच में उतनी ही ज़्यादा सिमिलैरिटी होगी, यानी कि वो उतने ही ज़्यादा क्लोजली रिलेटेड होंगे इन द कोर्स ऑफ एवोल्यूशन, एंड देयर आर मोर चांसेस दैट दे हैव अ रिसेंट कॉमन एंसेस्टर. Okay, so rate at which hybrid DNA double helix are formed is directly proportional to the similarity in their DNA sequences. So faster the hybridization, more closely will be the species. Okay, so such kind of hybridization, it has been done between human and chimpanzee, human and gorilla, and human and orangutan, and which has shown that human and chimpanzee are more closely related than other two great apes, as they have only 1.8% dissimilarity. That means 97.2% DNA is similar in human and chimpanzee. Then again, human and gorilla, they have 2.3% dissimilarity. That means this much DNA is different in these two species. That means these are second closest to human gorilla, and then human and orangutan 3.7% dissimilarity. That means this is the third closest species to human. So similarity among animals at a molecular level is termed as molecular homology. Then are biogeographical evidences. So study of distribution of plants and animals in the world is termed as biogeography. So in during evolution, when during around Carboniferous period or slightly earlier, all the present day continents, they were a single large irregular land mass which was termed as Pangea. Now this Pangea, during continental drift, it has drifted to far off places, and present day continents have been formed. So here you can see in this picture, this is Pangea, a common land mass, and it has started drifting away, continental drift, and now these are separating, continents are separating. So here you can say finally this is the present situation, this last picture. So all the continents, they have been separated. So uh, splitting into smaller land masses, that means continents, they have drifted away from each other to their present position, and ocean has occupied the space in between them. So this empty space that is occupied by ocean, so this will result into some peculiar formations like discontinuous distribution of some organisms, restricted distribution of some organisms, and a totally different kind of life at oceanic islands. So we'll discuss these one by one. So first is discontinuous distribution. So as these all continents, they have been separated from each other, so there is no direct connection through land, and if any organism which is unable to move through ocean, that cannot move from one continent to another, so that has resulted into discontinuous distribution of organisms. So descendants of a common ancestor in some cases inhabit different continents and also differ from each other, as they were reproductively isolated geographically. Okay, because there is ocean in between and they are inhabiting the two different geographical area, so they will be unable to mate for longer durations, and finally they have developed into different kind of species. So let us prove it by examples like alligators. Now alligators at present, alligators, they occur in southeastern United States. That means this brownish region. Okay, not this brownish, this bluish zone, that is southeastern United States and eastern China, which is shown here in this brown color, but it should be blue. So this eastern China and the southeastern United States, alligators are present at present, these are present in these areas. So the explanation of this discontinuous geographical distribution is that North American continent, it was connected to eastern Eastern Asia in early Cenozoic by a land bridge. Okay, so this region was connected to Asia by a land bridge, as you can see here in Pangaea, if it is, but it's so small. Okay, so here you can see by a land bridge in this Pangaea, it is connected. The land is connected. Okay, but now these are separated because of the continental drift. Now the climate of the whole region was much warmer than at present. So the alligators were all the alligators, as it is revealed by fossil evidence, were distributed all over the entire region. Okay, but then finally, in the late Cenozoic era, the climatic conditions they have changed due to ice age, and which has caused the extinction of alligators in most of the region. Okay, because they as they are poikilothermic, and they cannot survive such low temperatures. So most of the alligators they have undergone extinction, and southeastern United States and eastern China remained unaffected by glaciation or ice age, and that's why alligators survived here. So right now, at present time, alligators are present only here in southeastern United States and eastern uh, China. So uh, now, because these are geographically isolated from each other and these are not able to mate with each other, and there is a reproductive barrier, geographical barrier between these two alligator populations. Finally, with due course of time, they have evolved into separate species. So now these are separate species with their own independent characters, as they have undergone random mutations different from each other. So these are now closely related species of a same genus. Similar is the case with magnolias and tulips and sassafras. So here are sassafras, these are flowers, these are tulips, and these are magnolia. So their distribution has been shown again here, which is the similar in case of alligators. So in China, eastern China, and here in southeastern United States. So these are also distributed here, and again the reason is same, that landmass has been drifted away and they have been separated. Now the species which are present here in US and here in China are much more different because they are unable to reproduce among themselves, and now they are evolving as separate species. So reason is same as that of the alligators. Then next is camel family. Camel family is represented by true camels in Asia. Okay, so true camels in Asia and llama in South America. Okay, so this dark blue colored region, this is showing llama. Okay, and this is showing camels. So fossil records it has proved that camel family has evolved in North America. Okay, here this is North America. So camel family have evolved here, and from here it has migrated to all directions. So this is the origin of camel family. Finally, then it has spread to South America, Asia, and Africa, and then it became extinct in North America, where it has originated. Finally it has become extinct in that area because of unknown reason, but it still survives in other continents, in South America, in Asia, and in Africa. So the camels and llamas they have different developed differences due to long isolation from each other. So here you can see camel and llama, they are very much different, but they are member of a same family, and they have their common ancestor, and which again proves that organic evolution has taken place. And so their distribution, it proves how these are distributed. It proves that yes, they were present at the same during evolutionary time. They were present at the same landmass, which has drifted during course of continental drift, and finally they have been separated, and finally they have developed into different kind of species. Then is restricted distribution. Restricted, that means restricted to a land part or any specific continent. So parts which are separated from the rest of the world since long have unique flora and fauna. That means different kind of organisms and plants would be present at such places, like egg-laying or pouched mammals in Australia. Here you can see Australia is very much different. This orange colored structure. So this is Australia, and that is completely separated from other continents. So there is no land connection. So this Australia, as it has separated uh, in Cenozoic era, I guess Carboniferous era. Okay, so Cenozoic or Carboniferous, maybe. Okay, it has separated during early ages, early eras, and then at that time there were mammals have started evolving, and in this particular area in Australian continent there have been marsupials, that means pouched mammals, and no evolution of placental mammals have taken place till then. So there were no placental mammals, so all of the rest portion of the world which is different from that of the Australia, so Asia, Africa, and America, so all these regions they also have pouched mammal, but these were made extinct by the more successful placental mammals. But as this landmass Australia, it has been separated wide before, very before than the evolution of placental mammals, so no placental mammals have evolved here. So all the marsupials they have occupied all the habitats in different directions, whether that is tree or water or air or underground. So they have made adaptive radiation, which is also termed as divergent evolution. So here you can see these are marsupial radiation. So sugar glider, Tasmanian wolf, tiger cat, banded anteater, and marsupial rat, and kangaroo, and wombat, and bandicoot, and then koala, and then marsupial mole. So all of these are showing adaptive radiation or divergent evolution from a common ancestor. So that is because of restricted distribution. Then is life on oceanic islands. Now, animals and plants of oceanic islands in general resemble to those of the nearest mainland, yet they include distinct species. Now, here comes the case of Galapagos Island. You can see here. These are Galapagos Island, which are present near to the South America, and upper this portion is North America. So, in between there is a connecting land bridge, which is connecting these two continents. So, this Galapagos Island, it is near to this South America mainland, which is approximately about 1,000 kilometers, to be precise, 960 kilometers away. So it appears that animals from the continent they must have migrated to this Galapagos island, or must be carried away by some floating vegetation or by some ship or some logs to the island in the remote past. So animals which are found on such oceanic islands are only those that could have survived trip from the mainland. Frog, toads, and land mammals are not found on the Galapagos island because the environmental conditions are so much harsh for such organism, as they cannot survive in saline water. So no such amphibians are present in Galapagos Island. Here are only bird species, and all of these bird species they have migrated to they have adapted different food habits, and that forms a great example of Darwin's finches on Galapagos Island according to their food habit. Like from ancestral finch, some finches has developed to eat upon to feed upon plants, and some on insect. Some feed on insect by using tools, some feed on seeds, some feed on cactus, some feed on insects. So these are all different kind of finches which has originated, again proving that organic evolution has taken place on islands also. Then are taxonomic evidences. So taxonomy is a branch which deals with classification and naming of the organisms. So in taxonomy there are certain similarity among organisms, different organisms which look like these are different, but they still have some similarity. As we have talked about the homologous organs, you can see that human, dog, bird, and whale, they have similar bone arrangement inside their forelimbs, and that is proving that these belong to some common group. These are all vertebrates, and that means they must have a common ancestor and they must have evolved through that. So this kind of homology that proves, these are the taxonomic evidences that proves that the animals which look very different from one another but still they resemble in having a dorsal hollow nerve cord and ventral heart and notochord and gill slits, so it indicates a common ancestry. That means the individuals which show certain similarities are put into one smaller group, and these smaller groups which resemble with one another in some feature, these are combined on into a larger group and so on. Like primates are grouped into one order, primate, and finally all other different order like carnivora, insectivora, these are all grouped into mammals, and finally all mammals have been grouped into vertebrates because all like birds and amphibians and reptiles and human, these are all grouped into vertebrate because vertebrates again have some common character, like they have a dorsal hollow nerve cord and have a notochord or vertebral column, and gill slits and a tail. So these are some of the common characters which unite these into one larger group. And similarly, there are similarity in vertebrate embryos, as we have discussed in the previous evidences, in embryological evidences, that the early stages of all the vertebrates, they have very similar structure with head and with a large head with ear and eye rudiments and with gill slits and and a tail. So they look so similar that it is impossible to determine which embryo of which organism is this. Okay, then next is arrangement of taxonomic group. Various group of animals and plants can be arranged in order, showing gradually increasing complexity in structure. Like in case of heart and ear, if you talk about heart, fishes have two chambered heart. Then amphibian had three chambered, reptile had three and a half chamber, birds and mammals they have four chambered heart. So that finds an association between these two. The next is anamniotic ear evolution. So if you talk about evolution of ear, fishes possess internal ear only, and then amphibians have developed middle ear as well, and then reptiles and birds they have added external ears which have been more developed, better developed in case of mammals. So all of these they must have evolved through organic evolution. The next is evidences from genetics. So animals have many genetic similarities. DNA and RNA is present in every cell, and the structure of DNA and RNA is similar in all the organism, as DNA is composed of adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, and RNA is composed of adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil. And also genetic code or triplet codon is essentially same in all the organism, which again proves that life has originated from one common point. And here you can see that triplet codon, it code for same amino acid in every organism. Okay, the next are evidences from plant and animal breeding. Man has produced improved varieties of useful animals and plants by self effort. Several new species of pigeon you can see here. Okay, so these are different species of pigeon which has been originated by selfing and artificial selection of rock pigeon. And similarly, here you can see that. Kohlrabi, cauliflower, broccoli, and Brussels and cabbage and kale. These have been observed from mustard plant by selfing and artificial selection. So, by to achieve the desired character which the human want. So, by viewing all this, that it is possible that if development of such variation is continued, there would have been emergence of new species. Okay, if such kind of formation of varieties has been continued, maybe one day they have developed into new species, so that is very much possible. And also we know that for getting these varieties, man has simply been copying the natural methods which are selection and breeding. And if man can produce new varieties in such a short time, why don't nature can do it? Of course. Okay, so that is why new species have been formed. Then are behavioral evidences. Behavioral traits are inherited, that is very well known. So, similarity of behavioral traits of different animals indicate evolutionary relationship between them. Okay, it has been found that basic inherited behavioral patterns are not altered by environmental changes. So, these may be a good indicator of evolutionary relationship. As mating in certain fishes is very much similar. Fish of many species, they were found to mate in a similar manner by male coiling around the female, as you can see here. So that means all the species which show such mating behavior, they can have a common ancestor, but that should be, we should not completely rely on this behavioral aspect. We should confirm it by anatomical and chromosomal studies further. Similarly, in case of certain birds show wide variety of mating behavior by presenting gifts to the female, food gifts, by doing dance forms, elegant dance forms. So all of such species which perform dance, maybe these are or they have originated from a common ancestor, or the bird species which produce gift for food gift for female, they have a common ancestor. So that is possible. Then next is evidences from host and parasite. Parasites are often host specific. So presence of some parasite on different hosts indicate their evolutionary relationship. That means two parasites which are present on two differently placed hosts, which are belonging to the different classes or different orders, which previously by by seeing their morphology we think that these are different. Okay, but if they have similar kind of parasite on them, this indicate they must have evolutionary relationship. They must have a common ancestor. Like whale is aquatic, and by looking at it, you cannot judge or you cannot determine that if it is a mammal or a fish. But the lice which are present on whale, these are very much similar to the lice which are present on mammals. Also, the trematode which infect the intestine of whale is similar which infect mammals and not the one which infect fishes. So that is again a second fact, that host and parasite relationship, they have proved that whales belong to mammals and not to fishes. Similarly, if you talk about ostrich, which are found in Africa, and rheas, which are found in South America, they resemble superficially, but being large, flightless birds, but still they differ significantly, so that they can be placed into different orders. So Rhea is placed in Rheformis, and ostrich is placed in Struthiniformis order. Both of these birds, these are parasitized by identical species of tapeworm. You can see here, this is a single species of tapeworm or its sibling species which will infect these two birds. That means that clearly means that this parasite connect these two. That means they must have evolved from a common ancestor which was infected by this only species of tapeworm. So this is how parasites, they make a connection between two seemingly different species, but in reality these are not so much distant. Then next is current evolution. It is very much interesting and fascinating to note that evolution is still occurring in nature even now, and while you can say it is occurring at a most more faster rate. So there are certain examples of the recent ages, like peppered moth or Biston bitillaria. So this is a lighter moth. It has given rise to a dark melanic species. Here you can see this dark one. This is Biston carbonaria. By a change of color through a mutation, there has been a mutation in this white moth which has converted into a black one. Now, this black one was more conspicuous on this lichen-covered tree trunk. So this lighter moth was invisible. So you can see. So that is not viewed by the predator. So it will increase its survival chances. But due to industrialization, smoke has deposited on tree trunk. As you know, lichens are the indicators of pollution. So in a polluted area, you cannot find lichens. Okay, so lichens, they die off and the tree trunk was revealed, which was of dark color. Now this mutated moth, it has a positive selection pressure over it, because of dark color of tree trunk and because of dark color of its own feathers and skin. Again, it will be invisible to the predator, so it will increase its survival chances, whereas this lighter moth will be more specifically or conspicuously visible to the predators, and it will be eaten up by the predators. It will be picked up by predators, and finally their population will move downward, and it will dark moth will be selected. So that is evolution. Similarly, then another example is of rabbit. Some rabbits were introduced into Porto Santo Here is Porto Centro. You can see this is an island in Atlantic Ocean. So in early 15th century, rabbit, European rabbit, these were introduced into this Porto Santo island, and because as there were no carnivore enemies on that island, so they flourished very quickly, and in 400 years they have become quite different from their ancestral stock. Now these are the rabbit which are present on this Porto Santo. They have evolved from their parental stock, and they have evolved so much that now these cannot breed with each other. That means these now has become a different kind of rabbit, different species. Now these are a different species. Similarly, if we talk about northern and southern members of one species of frog, of American frog, so this is northern leopard frog and this is southern leopard frog. They too have now become separate species because they no longer can interbreed successfully. Similarly, there are certain more examples like evolution of viruses and bacteria and insects in recent regions and recent years. And these forms, they have evolved within a very short time, and these are resistant to antibiotics and insecticides like MDR strains have been formed of tuberculosis, multi-drug resistant. So these will be such kind of bacteria will be very difficult to treat, and there is no possible treatment till now. The next are experimental production of new species. So, a scientist has crossed radish and cabbage. You have seen that example so many times. So, cabbage and radish, these were crossed, and the haploid number of chromosome of these two species were 9 and 9, 9 for this and 9 for this. So, these were crossed, and Raphanobrassica was formed. Initially, the scientists were thinking that the hybrid would have storage root of radish and leaves of cabbage, but it has been reversed. It has got shoot of radish and root of cabbage, so that is of no use, totally waste. Okay, so they had 18 chromosome of total, but that was hybrid was totally waste. So such are these are the experimental production of new species. That means when human can produce some new species in his lifetime in a very short period, why don't nature cannot produce? Of course, nature can also produce. So this was all about evidences of organic evolution. So these all examples and all these processes and all these evidences, they prove that organic evolution has taken place.